Hey, what is up, fight fans? Michael Hernandez here alongside Serge Romero, and we are here back for the 559 Fights podcast, episode 2. And Serge, we definitely had some action to go ahead and talk about. 559 Fights 116 going down over there at the Visalia Convention Center this past August 23rd. What were your thoughts about it? I mean, before we hop into the big 559 that we do for this show, what were your thoughts about the show overall?
I thought the show was great. We had some banger fights. We had a lot of people, debut for 559. That's been a long time coming, like Jackie Flores, and then, some others, having some banger fights. So I thought it was a great event all around, great crowd. It was really fun.
And I know you actually got to speak with Jackie a little bit in the lead up. You got to do a little bit of a story kind of with her and Nathan Chastain, and getting to talk with her coach over there, Darren Crisp, over there at Crisp Kickboxing. How was that getting to not only speak with the athlete beforehand, but you're getting to go inside their gym. You're getting to kind of see exactly kind of the mind of a fighter. You're getting to see the kind of blueprint of what exactly they're looking to go ahead and accomplish in that cage on that Saturday. How was that getting to catch up with them?
Yeah, it was great getting to actually be able to, go interview these fighters in person and the coach. Previous stories I had done, I had to call them over the phone because I was, at Cal Poly and SLO. So actually being able to talk to them face to face and get that human interaction was great. Seeing the gym, the environment, of how things work over there, seeing the relationships that they have with each other. That was really cool to see, and it just made, I feel like, the story easier to write for me.
And definitely culminated for some pretty crazy things in the cage. Of course, we know Jackie Flores and Jasmine Yamashikanti both getting that Fight of the Night kind of award from Onakar Fresno over there, one of our gracious sponsors for the event. But just speaking a little bit about some of the other fights and kind of just, I feel like the finishing rate was really something we talk about. A 62% finish rate. I believe 8 out of 13 bouts ended in finishes over there, Serge. The fans alone, you could go ahead and see how excited they were to go ahead and have that type of action in the cage, right?
Yeah, the crowd reactions were insane. It was rocking in the Visalia Convention Center. It's always good to see, finishes, always good to see, a knockout or submission, which we had a pretty good mix of too. It's always great to see, someone hit the mat.
Yeah, 100%. And as we're kind of going into these 5 things that you may have missed from 559 Fights 116, that was one of them, was just absolute crazy amount of finishes that we were seeing. It seemed like every other fight there was a finish. Those prelims were mostly finishes. I believe 3 out of the 5 fights were finishes on the prelims. And then you take it over to that main card. You had just redemption story after redemption story on the night. 5 winners on the night, suffering losses in their last bouts, and 3 of those gentlemen actually being from the same gym over there at Tri-City MMA in Coalinga. How is that to kind of get to not only you? You've gotten to see the true culmination of this gym. We've gotten to see Francisco Hurtado, we've gotten to see Fabian Maldonado, but now kind of seeing the rest of the guys over there at Tri-City MMA getting those wins in the cage. It was pretty special over there on 559 Fight 116.
Yeah, and I think it's a testament to the gym as a whole. There's not just these superstars that are out here winning, like you mentioned, Fabian and Francisco, that are just winning. It's the culture runs deep within that gym, and they're able to pull out some great wins, early on in the prelims as well.
And speaking a little bit about that Isidro fight that he had, it was really early on in the beginning of the event against Mike Etheridge, but was able to go ahead and notch that TKO. And I felt like the momentum just was able to go ahead and carry on forward. Israel Adama had a really good fight against Julian Alvarado, who always brings it to the 559 Fights cage. But then Francisco Hurtado, I feel like he really showed a different layer to the type of fighter he is with his performance against Idris Niazi.
Yeah, Hurtado in his last fight, he kind of got, smacked around a little bit by, his opponent to lose that belt. And then he comes back and with a vengeance, takes care of business, gets a knockout, shows everyone that his previous fight was kind of not a fluke, but kind of a one-time thing, that he's not going to lose that badly ever again.
And if you are going to lose to anybody, to lose to Anthony Taco Montalvo is probably one of the short ends of the list that people are going to go ahead and excuse it for. And that was definitely, I would say, one of the fights of 2024 for the 559 Fights fans. But speaking a little bit more about this card going forward, we have Francisco Hurtado once again talking about the man. He is joining a little bit of an exclusive club now as one of the only fighters in 559 Fights history to go ahead and re-earn earn their belt after losing it, most previously Angelica Pimentel earning the belt after losing it to Stacy Moran, and then Manuel Reese was a champion previously for 559 fights, lost his belt and then was able to regain it. Speaking a little bit about that as a fighter, I mean, that's got to be a different type of level of mental toughness to be able to go into a fight knowing that you previously had, like how we say it, maybe had not what he wanted as his best performance going out there against Anthony Montalvo, and then be able to redeem it. It's got to be feeling that much more better than what a normal title win would feel like, I would think.
Yeah, it's a huge hump that fighters have to get over mentally. And, you know, when you get steamrolled by Montalvo, you know, you probably are thinking these things like, is this even for me? Am I even a good fighter? But no, Hurtado showed that he can get over that hump, you know, especially after a loss. And I thought he was still deserving of, you know, the chance to reclaim that title even after that loss.
100%. And it comes from, I believe, that finishing prowess that he has, that he's able to go ahead and kind of get over things so quickly in the cage, because he knows that, you know, it's a kill or be killed business out there. And he knows just as much as he wants to be on the delivering end of it, he has just as much a chance of him being on that end. And that's kind of what makes this game of mixed martial arts so fun and so dangerous. But speaking on a little bit forward, as we are speaking about this 559 fights card that just went down over there at the Visalia Convention Center on August 23rd. The debutantes had quite the night. 2 finishes in the second round from 2 guys debuting. Sebastian Nazaro with the second round TKO as well, along with Jason Jeff. That's, I mean, having your debut at 559 fights alone is something that is unrecognizable feeling. But then getting the TKO win in front of all your friends and family, man, that's got to be something different.
Yeah, I'm sure nerves for some of those guys were through the roof. I'm sure landing that TKO and, you know, getting that win in front of, you know, that amount of people was exhilarating. I'm sure it's something that they're going to want to replicate, and it'll just make these guys even hungrier. And
speaking a little bit about Sebastian Nazaro earning that second round TKO, some of the fastest hands I've seen on a debuting fighter ever in 559 fights, was able to land that crisp 1-2 to kick it off, and then bam, starts the second round off again and lands that same exact combo.
Yeah, so you never know what you're going to get with these debuting fighters, so to be able to see someone look as, you know, crisp as he did in his with his hands is really refreshing to see.
And especially working with that team over there, Hornets Nest over there in Tulare, California, alongside Julian Alvarado and a former 559 Fights title challenger, Marcelino Silva. You know, he's definitely gained his knowledge worth over there. But then speaking a little bit about the other debutant that got his victory recently, Jason Jeff got a second round TKO, and it just seemed right from the get jump. He knew the game plan, land that left hook, and everything else will be there. And it showed right in his fight as well.
Yeah, something that I see a lot from debuters is they'll stray off from the game plan once things aren't going their way, or, you know, just nerves get to them. But he stuck to the game plan. He stuck to what his coaches were telling him, and it paid off.
I mean, and there's only so much time that you get to really work in there as well. You get, for your debut fight, you get 3 rounds, 2 minutes each, and at the end of the day, that's really not that much time to work, especially when you got getting held up against the cage for about 20 seconds of it. If you realistically look at that, that's about 1/6 of that round already gone, already wiped away. Yeah. And then if he extends that to 40 seconds, that's basically 33% of that round that guy just got. And I know it's crazy to break it down into numbers and everything like that, but at the end of the day, when you are going to these decisions, that's something you have to look at as a fighter.
Yeah, for sure. It's something that, you know, a lot of people don't really think about.
Ochoa Combat as well, having quite the night over there at 559 Fights 116, getting 2 fighters to go ahead and earn some decision victories over there. Jonathan Rigby, and then of course Moses Gonzalez as well, earning the victory. How is that being able to see? And that's another gym that you've been able to speak to pretty closely as well, getting to speak to them and a lot of their fighters coming out, especially Jihad Sewell, who's most recently supposed to be on this card, but sadly was not able to be on due to an opponent pull out. How is that to not only get to see these guys, but then you're also getting to see the work in the cage? And I mean, Jonathan Rigby, if there was not Jacqueline Flores and Jasmine Yashtremski on that card, I think him and Alexandrius Alexander possibly are the fight of the night there.
Yeah, that fight was great to see. It was good to see those guys go back and forth. You know, Jonathan Rigby picking up that win. He looked great in there. You know, seeing those fighters, you know, training and competing is really nice. And it's kind of like how all these other gyms, you know, have that deep culture where they're able to, you know, support each other and lean on each other in order to pull out those wins.
And the crazy thing is that there's still more action to come over there. 559 Fights 117 going down at the Visalia Convention Center once again before we make our big return over there to Eagle Mount Casino on October 19th for 559 Fights 118. 559 Fights 117, September 27th at the Visalia Convention Center. Fans, make sure to go ahead and get your tickets as we head into the 5 fights that you want to go ahead and watch out for 559 Fights 117. 559 Fights 117 going down at the Visalia Convention Center, and we got the 5 fights that you want to go ahead and watch out for. Serge, you got Sagen Zacharias, Johnny Reyes. This is a matchup that we previously have seen go down over there at the Visalia Convention Center. And now, Sagen Zacharias, Johnny Reyes, to Sagen most recently losing that title to Octavio Gonzalez, but then got a pretty big win over there at 559 Fights 117 against Lorenzo Quintana. I mean, this has just seemed like the year of rematches for Sagen Zacharias, right?
Yeah, Sagen had a very good bounce back win against Lorenzo. Last time Sagen and Johnny fought, it was for the flyweight title, and Sagen came out on top. But I think we're going to see a reinvigorated Johnny Reyes. I don't think that he's going to go down as easily as before. You mentioned the loss that Sagen suffered to Octavio Gonzalez. I think that was a tough task for Sagen in the moment, but like I said, he rebounded pretty well against Lorenzo, so I'm really, really excited to see what these two guys bring.
Really, really excited to see what those two 125ers bring. And I mean, the Johnny Reyes and Sagen Zacharias one fight is anything, if it's a testimony to anything that we're going to see going down on September 27th, I think the fans have a lot to be excited for because that was an absolute war through 3 rounds. But go on to the second matchup that we are looking out for. Matthew Vargas taking on Noah Zuna, his first title defense, coming off that Rampage Jackson-esque kind of slam that he got in order to go ahead and win that belt against Thomas Lunas Cortez. Now looking to go ahead and defend against the man, Noah Zuna, who he's kind of been lighting the 559 Fights world on fire. He beat Luis Ramos, who was a very, very hyped up prospect over here. Also gained a notch of finish over Emiliano Granada in his time over here in the 559 Fights cage. It's going to look like a pretty action-packed, I believe, feature championship bout with Matthew Vargas and Noah Zuna.
Yeah, Noah's got a great resume behind him. At 559 Fight, he's part of Team Oyama. I mean, Derek Sean is part of Team Oyama, another 559 champion. So Noah is he's going to be a tough opponent for Matthew Vargas. But Matthew Vargas training with Chris MMA. They've got some dogs in that gym. I think it's going to be another banger title fight.
And then we're speaking about Ozuna, the brother of Elijah Ozuna, a former champion over here at 559 Fights, now looking to go ahead and add to that family resume and add to those championship belts that they got over there at the Ozuna household as he looks to take on Matthew Vargas in that championship feature bout. But we also have, like how I stated, 4 championship bouts, and this is not even the fact that I'm not bringing up Robert Barrios, because we already know we are all excited to see that main event of Robert Barrios and Justin Moore. Excited to leave him out of these 5 fights to watch out for, but man, Gabriel Sanchez taking on Sahel Singh. Let me just say, I love when Gabriel Sanchez fights, but his fans have got to be some of the craziest fans I've ever encountered, and I love it. I love it because we get rain, we get pours, we get all types of things going down whenever he's in the cage.
Yeah, we always got some fans throwing some stuff, going crazy and all that when he wins. But Gabriel always brings out the fans. He's been the highest ticket seller 2 out of his 3 fights that he's been with 559. So expect to see the crowd show out for him. But when he does fight, he always brings on a show. He's always been dropping weight every time he's fought, which I think is great for him. And then, taking on his opponent out of 805 MMA, they've got 805's got some guys that have come over to 559 and performed really well. So got another, I keep saying another banger, but these are all like certified bangers.
Matchmakers over there at 559 Fights doing their thing, so to speak. Sahel Singh, Gabriel Sanchez, and personally speaking, the man himself, Mr. Sanchez, comes up to me last fight, says, "Hey, watch out, I'm going to sell 300 tickets this time." So I'm holding his word. 300 tickets is a hell of an amount, but if he's able to do it, that will by far be the most amount of tickets I've ever seen a fighter sell at 559 Fights. That would be like when I don't know if you remember the national championships of wrestling, you see the whole sections of Iowa, you see the whole sections of whole schools. That would almost be reminiscent of if he was able to bring out 300 people.
Because
going to be an amazing show over there, September 27th. Do not miss it, fight fans. But we still got some more fights that we want you to go ahead and keep your eye out for. Lorenzo Quintana makes his return to the 559 Fights cage as he looks to take on a man that has been knocking at the door for that 125 flyweight title in Jesus Federico. Jesus 3-0 in his time over here in the 559 Fights cage. Lorenzo Quintana looking to get back on the winning track as he most recently took a loss to Sajan Zacharias, the only man to actually serve him a loss so far in his mixed martial arts career. This has got, I believe, one of the most fundamentally sound matchups written all over it. Federico, very, very good boxer. Quintana, as we have seen, loves to throw those hands. So I think we got a banger on our hands here, Serge.
Yeah, it'll be exciting to see them, throw hands with each other, trade some blows. Quintana, his only kryptonite so far has been Sajan Zacharias. So I think we'll see another banger fight. Quintana, both of these fighters have good resumes behind them, even considering Quintana's losses. It'll be fun to watch.
And some fighters, man, I've always said it's like, the Devious and Figueiredo, Brandon Moreno, kind of, the feud that they had back in the day, and now we're going into the Pantoja and Moreno feud. This kind of reminds me of it with Sajan Zacharias and Lorenzo Quintana, because it's not like Sajan's blowing out Lorenzo. It's like both these fights are super, super close, but it's just so much fun getting to see two guys that really, really love the sport and just going at it and competing, man. And that's what you see when those two gentlemen enter the cage. But speaking more as we go into our last fight that we want you fans to go ahead and watch out for at 559 Fights 117. Jesus Navarrete makes his 559 Fights debut as he takes on a man that is very familiar with the cage in Manuel Ramirez over here in Visalia. 2 finishes for Manuel Ramirez Lewis so far in his 559 Fights career. Both of those finishes have been by submission, but Navarrete looking to go ahead and play a little bit of spoiler as he comes into the hometown of Manuel. This is a fight that, although it may not look like something on paper that can be, adding to the title picture, I think Manuel Ramirez is knocking at that door if he's able to notch another finish.
Yeah, of course. He'll improve to 3-0, I believe, on his record if he gets that win. It'll be nice to see, that high-level grappling, that you get for amateur against, someone like Jesus, who's, like you said, making his debut. So another, fun fight to watch. It'll be interesting to see how Jesus combats that, those takedowns and, all that wrestling from Manuel, but like I said, another fun one to watch. These matchmakers are cooking over there.
They are definitely cooking. They got some spices. They got some things kind of laying around the kitchen. Maybe, who knows? Maybe they got some rats over there in their apron hats that we don't know about, and that's why these matchups have been so dang good. But we're speaking a little bit about the Jesus Navarrete and Manuel Ramirez matchup. Navarrete notching 2 finishes previously in his amateur mixed martial arts career, now making the 559 Fights debut over here. And we've seen fighters make this debut and oftentimes have a little bit of trouble in terms of the combination of having to travel over here, having to go ahead and get the weight down. There's so many culminated things that go into a fight. What do you like to see out of guys when they're making their debut over here in 559 Fights, when they've had experience in other organizations? Because you can fight in other organizations, but 559 Fights, it could be a little bit of a different realm of a beast in some senses.
Yeah, it's no organization is the same when it comes to MMA. I don't think you're allowed to, come in your debut and think that you're already the top guy when you haven't even fought yet. But I think if you're humble and you come in and you respect your opponent, you're like, hey, 559 Fights, this organization's been at it for a long time. We've seen some dogs come out and go pro. This is an organization that's, at another level, and I have to, come well prepared for this fight.
As these fighters will look to come well prepared as they enter into the Visalia Convention Center on September 27th. Make sure that you get your tickets now on eventbrite.com or 559fights.com for 559 Fights 117 over there at the Visalia Convention Center. As we go into our 9 gyms that you may want to be looking out for in these future 559 Fights, as they have been making a splash so far in 2025. Stay tuned. Well, Serge, we have seen quite the, great just selection of gyms over here at 559 Fights in our history. But today I kind of wanted to do a little bit of a special segment, and I know you organized it, but we're talking about the 9 gyms that people kind of you know, if they hear this being announced behind a fighter, maybe they should go ahead, stick to their seats, grab their popcorn, grab their beer, you know, get a chance to relax, because you definitely don't want to leave your seat when this fighter go ahead and enters the cage.
Yeah, these gyms have really, you know, shown out at 559. They've kind of been some of the main gyms that train these, you know, champions and all that. So these gyms are, you know, of note to 559, so to speak. So the first gym is Ochoa Combat Academy. They've been, you know, around for a while. You know, you've got Robert Barrios and Pedro Perez fighting on this card. You know, Barrios, obviously the CAMO State and 559 Fights heavyweight champion. So I think that just speaks volumes to how, you know, how good you can be if you start going to this gym.
And previously having Gabriel Reyes over here as a champ, and then Ronnie Reyes obviously had a really good run over here in 559 Fights during his amateur career. Pedro Perez looking to make his debut over there. But then on the other side of things, in that kind of same area, you got Crisp MMA, you got Brianna Stevens, Matthew Vargas most recently joining that team over there. You got Jackie Flores, Tyler Saley, Matthew Martinez, so many great bodies that gym has, and so many that have contributed to an illustrious story that we have at 559 Fights.
Yeah, it was great to speak to the guys over at Chris MMA, like we talked about earlier. You know, culture runs deep there. Darren Crisp is a phenomenal coach, so it's good to see them having successes over here at 559.
A man that used to formerly train over there with Kleber Jiu-Jitsu, and then of course the great team over there, Shoot Boxing, Kings MMA, Rafael Cordero, a great team over there. But then on top of that, I mean, we could go on all day about the gyms that are around this area, but you got Shoot MMA over there in kind of the South Valley, Bakersfield, California, putting on over there 661. You got Herman Tabota, Julio Ladava, who used to formerly be the champ over here at 559 Fights. It just seems like they have continuously been able to develop these guys, and now you're getting Ezekiel Ortiz, you're getting Josh Navarrete making his 559 Fights debut alongside Ezekiel. So we're starting to see these Shoot MMA prospects just continuously develop more and more, right?
Yeah, they make the drive over here from Bakersfield, you know, where a lot of those fighters are natives from. And they always show out. They always, you know, come out with the walkouts. They have the banner of all the names of their fighters that are fighting on the card. And it's really cool to see their culture as well. You know, each gym has their own type of culture. But there, I feel like what stands out is like the brotherhood, I guess you could say, about that gym. You know, they've always had their backs. They're always supporting each other in the gym. You always see them supporting them at the events and all that. So it's really cool to see the Shoot be successful, and they also have a phenomenal coach as well.
Brian Travers, of course, a former Strikeforce and Bellator veteran, I believe, over there in his time in his professional career. And then also, I mean, has been coaching the likes of Adrian Reyes, who we've seen at 559 Fights as well, has been very successful in his time over here in the 559 Fights cage. But speaking a little bit more about the North Valley, we got some great gyms over there. And I mean, I would be remiss if I did not bring up the man that's going to be challenging for that flyweight championship, the man that's on the other side of the things that we've seen quite the amount of championship belts to go over there in this past couple years, and that's Dethrone Mixed Martial Arts.
Yeah, Dethrone is always, you know, a name that gets thrown around, is mentioned a lot at every 559 event. They're always, you know, loud. They always show out, support their guys. Their head coach is a pretty good testament to that as well. You know, he's a character. And they've got a great gym over there. They've, you know, got Johnny Reyes, who is out of Dethrone, among a bunch of other fighters that fight at 559. So they're no gym to sleep on.
Especially with Sensei Mike Moreno at the helm over there, somebody that has seen I mean, he was almost on The Ultimate Fighter. This guy definitely knows what he's talking about when it comes to the sport of mixed martial arts. He has been able to guide a lot of those gentlemen to gold over here. Most recently, Brandon Betancourt, of course, being the recipient of that 559 Fights championship while being underneath that Dethrone banner. Johnny Reyes looking to go ahead and join the club. But on the other side of it, and on the other side of Fresno in a way, you got RDC Boxing, who most recently garnered Gianni Garcia as their most recent kind of champion underneath their banner. But they've had, of course, we've seen Sage and Zacharias earn that belt. We've seen Enrique Arroyo as well have a lot of success in 559 Fights, most recently challenging Herman Tabauda for the belt. So that's just been a gym that, although they've been coming into the MMA scene as of recent, RDC Boxing has been tearing it up over here.
Yeah, they've got a lot of great fighters, but they've got that three-headed monster right there with, you know, Sage and Eric and Gianni now over there in the fold. They're also a phenomenal gym. They I remember speaking to Eric a while ago for a story I'd written about him, and they give back to the community a lot. They have a lot of classes for for troubled youth. You know, Sajin and Eric have told me they have come from a troubled past, so seeing them give back to the community in that way it was really cool to see too.
A three-headed beast is a great way of saying it, because I mean, you got somebody at 125, somebody at 145, and then somebody at 170. That's not something you quite traditionally see in these smaller gyms, especially when they're able to go ahead and be at such a high level. But that just goes to show the work that those coaches are putting over there. Coach Ruben and all those guys over at RDC are definitely putting in a good amount of work to make sure that all the whistles are firing off to full explosion once it comes fight time. But I would be remiss if we didn't bring up the North Valley, if we didn't bring up Madera Mixed Martial Arts, man. You got Chris Chapa over there, got Kyle Mask, you of course got Gabriel Sanchez. So just so many names I could go ahead and list off. Of course, a former champion in Abraham Del Toro, a man that holds the record for most defenses, I believe, in 559 fights championship history. Madera Mixed Martial Arts and 559 fights, I would say they're intertwined in their histories, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely intertwined. I personally consider them, you know, pretty consistent in, you know, the way they perform at 559. Like you mentioned, Chris Chapa, a champion, Gabriel Sanchez, you know, someone who's challenging for a title, who's a fast riser. They've got a lot of fast risers coming out of Madera MMA, and they always show out whenever they fight at 559.
And then most recently, you had, like how you stated, Moses Contreras being a champion over there at 559 fights, of course dropping that belt to Gianni Garcia in what was a action-packed fight over there at 559 fights 116. But speaking a little bit, going forward, we go into the next gym, and that is, I mean, we got to go a little bit farther down south for this one, but it would be crazy if we didn't bring this gym up, especially with all the history that's had here at 559 fights, and that's Team Oyama. Got Muhammad Amin Dadakshan, Noah Ozuna. We've obviously seen Junior Gutierrez and Brock Diaz come over there from that Team Oyama gym in Irvine, and then Alex Perez, obviously Mr. 559 fights himself over there at Team Oyama now.
Yeah, Team Oyama has made a name for themselves, you know, not a really local gym out here, not located in the Central Valley. Like you said, they're based in Irvine or the OC. You know, them making the drive to be able to compete up here, you know, at one of the better organizations in, you know, California is kind of a testament to 559 and what Team Oyama is willing to, you know, not overcome, but go through to, you know, make that second effort to compete at 559. And, you know, like you said, I mean, Derek Sean has been a champion. He, you know, took down Joey Sandoval to get that title. You know, it was a great fight. He defended that title really, really well too. So, you know, Team Oyama also, you know, legendary coach as well. So.
And last but not least, of course, you got to shoot back up north over here for this last gym that we're going to go ahead and give a little bit of love to over there. And this is, of course, not to go ahead and not show love to all the gyms that compete at 559 fights, but this are just some of the most consistent gyms, some of the gyms that have been showing out the most in the 2025 year. And with the amount of MMA prospects that Halo BJJ has been putting out there, especially with the jiu-jitsu realm that we've been seeing now at 559 fights, it would be hard to not mention their name and not mention 559 fights 2025 in the same sentence.
Yeah, Halo has been, you know, a name that's been coming up. A lot of guys that are making their debut or it's their second fight on this card in particular. But, you know, BJJ is a great discipline to, you know, have in mixed martial arts, obviously. And, you know, they always show out when it's time to, you know, step on the mat.
Coach Angel Lopez definitely has a wealth of jiu-jitsu experience helping those guys get right. And then, of course, obviously has Art Hernandez over there helping a lot with the MMA realm side of things. So you know that he's got the right people in charge to go ahead and make sure that Halo BJJ has a lot more success going forward here at 559 Fights. But, fight fans, that is going to be it from us over here at the 559 Fights headquarters as we have the 559 Fights podcast ending off over here. Really appreciate you guys tuning into the last one and this episode. Make sure to go ahead, like the video, comment your favorite part about it, and hell, why not subscribe? You know, go ahead and show some love. So throw a little subscription in there and just give us your favorite part about this last video. This is Michael Hernandez here alongside Serge Romero. We will see you soon, September 27th, 559 Fights 117.